Once upon a time, in the golden age of Baghdad, where the markets buzzed with merchants and the mosques echoed with prayer, there lived a man whose cleverness knew no bounds. His name was Abu Nawas, known throughout the land for his sharp wit and unpredictable ideas. He was both feared and admired. Even the great Caliph Harun al-Rashid found himself intrigued and occasionally bested by the strange logic of this man. One day, as the city basked in a warm breeze and the call to prayer rang gently through the air, Abu Nawas sat near a fountain in the center of the market. He watched the people hustle, he watched the leaves rustle, and then he watched something stranger, the wind itself. It whipped through the streets, playful, invisible, yet powerful. It rustled veils, toppled baskets, and spun a child's toy wheel with no visible hand. That's when the idea struck him. He stood up, brushing the dust from his robe, and declared to himself, "Today, I will sell the wind." Of course, most would say this is absurd. Who could buy something they couldn't see or touch? But Abu Nawas had never been a man limited by what others thought was possible. He began by walking to a shaded area in the market, set up an empty table, and placed a single ornate bottle on it. It was transparent with a golden stopper, and it glittered in the sun. Soon, a curious boy approached. "What are you selling, uncle?" Abu Nawas smiled. "Something rare, something powerful, something that no one else in this market can offer." The boy leaned closer. "What is it?" Abu Nawas gestured with a wide hand. "The wind?" The boy blinked. "The wind? Yes," Abu Nawas said. "Captured and bottled, only for the cleverest of buyers." The boy laughed and ran off. But children love stories, and stories travel fast. Within the hour, a group had gathered. They stood, whispering, staring at the bottle. An old merchant stepped forward. "Is it true you are selling the wind?" "I am Abu Nawas," said proudly. "How can that be?" Abu Nawas tapped the bottle. "This bottle contains a portion of the northern breeze that comes from the mountains. I caught it on a cold morning and sealed it in. It is perfect for calming fevers, curing restlessness, and bringing clarity of thought." The merchant laughed. "You expect us to believe this?" "I expect nothing," Abu Nawas said. "But perhaps you are not wise enough to recognize value." That insult did its job. The merchant scowled. "And how much for this wind?" "10 gold coins," Abu Nawas said. The crowd burst into laughter. 10 coins for an empty bottle?" someone shouted. Abu Nawas remained still, not empty, contained, bottled, preserved. He sat quietly, unmoved by the jokes or the laughter. Slowly, one curious man approached. A scholar. "May I hold the bottle?" the scholar asked. "You may, but do not open it. It must remain sealed." The scholar examined the bottle, held it up to the light. He turned it in his hand, admiring the craftsmanship. It was, indeed, a fine bottle. "What if the wind inside is real?" the scholar murmured. "Then you would own something no one else does," Abu Nawas replied. The scholar looked at the crowd. He placed the bottle down and handed over 10 gold coins. Gasps filled the market. "You fool!" the merchant cried. "He tricked you!" But the scholar smiled. "No, he made me think." That was all it took. The spell was cast. The next day, Abu Nawas returned with 5 more bottles. Each had a colored ribbon, red for desert wind, blue for sea wind, green for forest breeze, silver for night wind, and white for mountain chill. People came. They bought, some mocked, some believed, but all were talking. Even those who doubted wanted one just in case the wind was real. Abu Nawas became the talk of the town. Children whispered tales of how he caught the wind. Poets wrote verses about the bottled breeze. Merchants argued whether he was a genius or a fraud. One evening, the Caliph himself heard the tale. He summoned Abu Nawas to the palace. "So," the Caliph said, "you are now selling the wind." "I am," Abu Nawas said proudly. "Do you think me a fool?" "Never, my lord. In fact, I have reserved a bottle for you." He handed over a black bottle with gold accents. "This," he said, "is the whisper of wisdom, a breeze from the high peaks where monks meditate. It sharpens the mind." The Caliph chuckled. "You are outrageous, but the bottle is beautiful," the Caliph admitted. "How much did people pay?" 10 coins, and they believed it. They believed the possibility. The Caliph leaned forward. "What if I open it now and find nothing?" Abu Nawas nodded. "Then you will have confirmed what you already believed. But if you wait until a day you feel confused and then open it, perhaps you will find clarity. Who can say?" The Caliph laughed aloud. You have fooled my city with an empty bottle." "Not fooled," said Abu Nawas, inspired. The Caliph was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Leave the bottle. I will keep it." Abu Nawas bowed. "Of course, my lord." Word spread that even the Caliph kept a bottle of wind. This changed everything. Now the elite wanted it. Wealthy traders, noble women, visiting royals. Soon, bottles were priced at 20, then 50 gold coins, and Abu Nawas. He never claimed they held magic. He never claimed they worked. He simply smiled and said, "For those who believe, they do." Years later, long after the wind bottles had gone out of fashion, one old woman sat by her window, holding a dusty bottle. Her grandson asked, "Grandmother, why do you keep that old thing?" She smiled, "Because once, when I was sad, I opened it, and I remembered the story of Abu Nawas. I laughed, and I felt better." The boy looked at the bottle. "So, it worked." She winked. "Of course it did. It's the wind." And so the legend lived on, not because of what the bottle held, but because of what it offered, a reason to believe, to wonder, and to smile. In a world driven by logic, Abu Nawas reminded everyone that sometimes the most valuable things are invisible, yet unforgettable. Just like the wind he once sold in the heart of Baghdad.